Hey, and good morning, everybody. It's Sherman Wright, Black Success Magazine, the podcast. And today is Financial Thursdays with Robby Thomas. Folks, we're going to have a good time today. Robby is raring to go. We'll bring him on in just a second. But before we do, let's talk a little bit about Black Success Magazine. Black Success Magazine. If you'd like to go to the webpage, just go to blacksuccessmagazine.com and you can check out all of the articles and videos and podcasts, stuff like that. I mean, it's just a great website. Always adding to it, especially the podcast. This podcast, just go to the podcast tab, and if you've missed one of them today, you can actually check those out there. Also, if you'd like to contact me, just send me an email at info@blacksuccessmagazine.com, and definitely you can get a hold of me. Would love to hear from you. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Also, you can get a hold of us on the Alexa, what do they call it? Alexa smart speaker, just by saying, "Hey, Alexa, I want to hear Black Success Magazine, the podcast." But once again, today is Financial Thursdays with Robby Thomas, and we want to bring Robby Thomas on now. Hey, Robby, how you doing, brother?
I'm good. How are you this morning?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you much. Good to see you. Are you raring to go today?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's get it, man. Let's get it going.
Yeah. So what are we going to talk about today?
We're talking about the importance of financials for small businesses in particular.
Oh, okay. Fantastic. Robby, let me interrupt you real quick because you've got something. We're working on something together. For those of you who don't know, Robby and I are partners in crime here. We're both part of the Black Business Chamber of Commerce, but we're also working on a lot of marketing stuff for the chamber and for business owners. And Robby, I think a lot of people don't know about the Las Vegas Speaks, and
Yes.
And you're a part of that. Can you tell us a little bit about Las Vegas Speaks?
Absolutely. So Las Vegas Speaks is a unique platform. It's a media platform. Essentially, it's a show that will be aired on cable TV. It's a great partnership opportunity that we had with UNLV and Rebel Media. But the genesis of this is really about, as we look to reopen the economy, we want to give business owners, business people, influencers a platform to share about what's going on in Las Vegas. And so this was really the brain trust of a group of us that, thought that this would be a great opportunity. The planets aligned, so to speak. And we were able to talk to a couple of major players to help us create this platform. So if you're interested in learning more about Las Vegas Speaks, and it's an opportunity for business owners, influencers to talk about what they're doing, including electeds, right? Yeah. What's going on in the ecosystem here in Las Vegas. We'd be thrilled to have you. Obviously, you can reach out to Sherman or myself, and we'd be happy to tell you a lot more about how to get on, what we really like to portray in terms of what's happening here in the business world in Las Vegas. So we're really excited about that.
While you're talking here, I'm going to show them the website while you're talking. Okay.
Sure.
Right, let's see if we can see the if I can make this work, I guess.
Right.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Excellent. Yeah, we're in the process of finalizing our distribution with Cox and Cox Media, and certainly we're looking forward to sharing this platform with folks that are interested in talking about their business, talking about what they do. And, it's just going to be a great opportunity to highlight some of the really wonderful things happening in the city of Las Vegas.
Fantastic. Well, that is awesome. I'm very excited about that. That Las Vegas Speaks, once again, we'll be talking about this more and more, but we definitely didn't want to miss the opportunity about talking about this right now, since we've got you on for Financial Thursdays with Robby Thomas. So, Robby, let's talk a little bit about importance of financials and why. And so I'll just hand it over to you.
So, one of the most important things in business is really understanding how the business operates and how it's operating, the results of the business. But I want to start by saying entrepreneurs are storytellers. And so they tell stories through the businesses that they create, the products and services that they bring to the market. And you also tell a story through the financial or the results of your operations. And so those are really important pieces to understand, that you're really telling a story. Financials tell the operational story, how your business is actually doing, your income, your expenses, liabilities, assets, everything to do with your business. It's a language, and you have to be able to understand that language, because other people that are either looking or evaluating your business, either as investors or people that want to do business with you in terms of your capacity, understanding your capacity, all of those things sort of roll into the financial picture of your business.
It's funny, Robby, we were talking about this before we got started today about how we both have, a lot of experience in this. I mean, I had a restaurant, you've had your business before. And especially now, people coming out of COVID,
Right.
Hopefully we're coming out of COVID.
Exactly.
I know how important this is going to be, because most businesses rise, I should say all businesses rise or fall on their financials. I mean, they really do. And so for those of you who are just checking us out today, this is probably going to be one of those shows that's probably going to impact your future more than you would think. So definitely check this out. So, Robby, you were saying that before we got started that there are, where did you want to start at? You want to start
So there's some primary financial statements that each business has, specifically around smaller businesses. There are other kinds of financial statements, but the primary financial statements are the three of them. The income statement, okay, it's usually referred to as a profit and loss statement. There is the balance sheet, or the statement of condition, and there is a statement of cash flows. Let's begin with the income statement and what that does. Essentially, the income statement really looks at everything that you take in terms of your revenue, your income, and your expenses, everything that you spend or everything that is you budgeted to as outflows for your business. And how that's developed is, for the most part, you run your business activity through a bank account. Some people actually use PayPal if you're doing online business, or you're doing some other type of e-commerce activity. It could be eBay or Amazon or what have you. But at the end of the day, you want to be able to take those monthly statements and get them over to your bookkeeper. Now, here's the interesting thing about a lot of small businesses is that we do have our bank accounts. We do the kinds of activity through the bank accounts. But what we don't always do is reconcile in a timely manner. And so what tends to happen is at the end of the year, you're faced with trying to compile all of this data together in preparation to file your taxes.
So what you're saying, Robby, of course I have to chime in here, of course, right? I chime in here because I remember running our restaurant. This was interesting that I'm running our restaurant, and every year about December, we start, start getting anxious. What didn't I do?
Right.
How did I, and then you look for the shoebox, right? Because a lot of people, that's the way they do it.
Oh, the famous shoebox, not the shoebox.
I know.
The envelope.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think they're doing a great job. I got all my receipts and I've got everything. And they basically come, because I've been on the other side of this. In other words, not only was I a business owner, but I was also a tax preparer. So I understand people slamming down the envelope full of receipts. Now you've got to go through that. So what ends up happening is that you're paying an accountant, or you're paying a tax preparer to become your bookkeeper.
Yeah.
And now you're paying, or you reach out to an accountant to prepare your books and then do your filing, because you can't file unless your books are done. So what I would advise people to do is to make sure you team up with a bookkeeper. So a lot of people want to go from this to the accountant. Accountants are important in your business, but if you're really not as prepared as you should be to meet with an accountant, Get a bookkeeper or bookkeeping service that can keep your books in a timely manner.
Oh, now
That's
this is
really,
interesting.
really important. That'll
Yeah,
save you a lot of money.
this is important because a lot of people don't know there's a difference between an accountant and a
And a
bookkeeper.
bookkeeper, right?
Yeah. And so they think that they're doing, because there might be somebody who says, does your taxes. They go, you know
Right,
what, just go ahead and throw it all in a big shoebox and just give it to me. I'll take care of you. But
right.
really, that's what I'm hearing you saying is that actually costs you money.
It does, and it costs you a lot of money because now you're paying an accountant to become a bookkeeper. So, and the time is really spent trying to put the books together. So the bookkeeping process really straightens your books out in a way that once you get to the end of the year, all you have to do is hand that closing year package, the end of the closing year package, to the accountant to do the filing, right? Because your books are all done. And so it's a misunderstanding about how to apply these skills and these different areas of expertise. So the important thing is to make sure when you're doing your 2021, right, get a bookkeeping service. It'll save you lots of money in the long term. And there's several. I don't want to say one's better than the other, but there are some that are cost effective, that are online. There's some people that you may have relationships with that are bookkeepers. Talk to them and see, whether or not, because bookkeeping can be, you can charge, they charge basically by activity. And so if you're not doing a ton of activity, you're not going to pay a ton of money. So the importance is really to get the bookkeeping side of your business squared away so that at the end of the year or at the quarters, when you have to make payments and things of that nature, that you understand where you are. The other thing you don't want to do is to not have an idea where your business is in terms of your financials. You don't know where you are, how much money you're making, where your liabilities are. You want to have these statements because they're also data points that you need to be able to access and to really look at and begin to make decisions around your business.
Now this is interesting. Once again, so the whole idea behind behind your financials is where you're at.
Yes.
But even just in the opening salvo that we're talking about here,
Right.
I'm finding out that a lot of business owners are wasting a lot of money, wasting a lot of time, and they don't know what their business is just because they're not even set up to do their financials. So what you're saying, I guess, let me ask a question. What can save people a lot of time? From what I'm hearing you saying is basically setting up your financials at the beginning.
Yes.
Getting ready to because if you set them up in January, which we are at right now, so a lot of business owners are hearing this now. If you can set up your financials now, this will save you a lot of headache come next year. When you go to your bookkeeper, or excuse me, your
accountant in the end.
And you say, here's my stuff, and you drop a
there's a big difference between bringing your envelopes of receipts to the accountant versus bringing your financials that are already prepared. You see what I'm saying? And so all you're paying for is the filing. But when you bring your envelopes and everything else, you're paying for filing, but you're also paying for bookkeeping. So those are two things that you want to save money on. So what I have done, and again, there's some people that prefer to do it differently, is to use a app that you can upload receipts right away into the program, and that's also saving time. We carry our phones with us everywhere we go.
Sure.
If you get gas, you could actually scan that receipt, put it right into the account, the program, and it basically files. And your accountant, your bookkeeping service categorizes that, automatically. So at the end of the month, all of the receipts that you're using, is already categorized. And that's a big piece of finishing your financial statements. Not just about getting the expenses over, it's about categorizing the expenses in the right place so that you have an accurate accounting of what you spent your money on. Those are really important data points. Now, to fast forward to down the road, when you have your books all set, you're now able to access the PPP without any problems.
That's important. Yeah.
And because you don't have to worry about, well, what are my financials saying? You have it, even though you may not have made money. The mere fact that you have financials, they actually are able to read those financials and determine whether or not you're eligible for this program or that program. And then you also have exactly.
Yeah, and it's funny because we work with a local bank here, actually several local banks, and during these conversations, they keep telling us that we don't have Black business owners, and especially in the Las Vegas area. And I don't know what it's like nationwide, but I definitely know in the Las Vegas area that a lot of business owners do not come into the bank, and I think it's basically because they've not gotten to this level where they've started to do their financials, or if they've done it, they haven't done it enough that they feel like they want somebody to see their financials. But what you're telling me is that this will actually prepare them, even if it's not for PPP loans, it could prepare them on paper, at least, for any kind of loan or any kind of consideration from a bank.
For the standard, for the standard lender, you want to see a business that has at least maybe 2 years. If you're a new business, it might be a little bit more. But, typically 2 years of financials, right? You want to have those tax returns, but you also want to see financial statements. So you want to be able to see that the business has an internal sense of control over what they're doing. So if it tells you that there's a system in place. If you go to the bank and you typically wouldn't basically get to the bank appointment unless you had, a viable economic proposition. Banks want to do loans, they want to lend money, but they want to lend money in a prudent manner because they have to answer to regulatory agencies. They got to, answer to stock shareholders and all that kind of stuff. So it's important. They do want to lend money, but you have to do it in a way that's prudent, not only to the bank side, but also to the person that's borrowing money. So it's really important. So it's a very, very important thing to pay attention to how your business is run and to take advantage of systems that help you to create a seamless process to generate financial statements. And that's really important. It's going to save people a lot of headache and in money in the future as well.
And money. And I think that's important to everybody. Saving the money.
Time and money. Those two important things in this.
Time and money. That's really it is. So, Robby, let's go ahead and move 2 of the statements, because you mentioned 3 statements that business owners that are part of your financial statements. So let's go ahead and move. And go ahead. I think the first one you were talking about was your income statement. So what are we talking about as far as an income statement goes?
Most people are familiar with the income statement. It's basically profit and loss. Income. You're capturing income, everything from deposits, services, products, services, and how that basically comes through the business, whether it's through a bank account or through another portal or what have you. You want to capture that. In the business, if it's a retail, it could be the net result of cost of goods sold, right? You're subtracting things like freight in and all those kinds of things. But the bottom line is you're categorizing all income and you're categorizing all expenses. And so the net result of that is your net profit or net loss, unfortunately, if you do end up with a loss. But the bottom line is you're getting a report that summarizes everything. Now you have to do it on a monthly basis, typically. In some businesses, it's actually looked at on a weekly basis. In some cases, it's even a daily basis. So you're drilling down to the lowest common denominator when it comes to running a business. What are you doing on a daily basis so you can project what happens at the end of the month? But the statements from the bank come out every month, every 30 days. And for folks that have bank statements, try to get your bank statements to cycle you out every month, as opposed to like in the middle of the month, right? You can do that. You can ask them to cycle you out at the end of every 30 days so that you have a consistency about how you do that. So the income statement's really about how you look at income and expenses.
Okay. And Robby, let me ask you real quickly before we move on to the next one, is how hard is it to categorize these things? Because we were talking about that before. Let's say you've got a QuickBooks program. I think that's probably typical of business owners. Your income statement, can that be automatically put into QuickBooks, or is it something you'd really physically do on a base?
There are a lot of integration happening, in the especially with a lot of the new apps that are coming out. You can integrate it with your bank statements, and so you may need help because the average, and I hate to use the term average, but typically people that start businesses don't always have the acumen around accounting. And I've done accounting, and it's not fun. I don't enjoy it, but categorizing is a unique, and I have to also defer. This is where you may need an accountant, but the point is you can make that adjustment later in the year. So even if you had a situation that you created a category that you weren't so sure about, the gray area, right? And you're not clear what it is. When you go through that process every month or what have you, you're able to look at each category, each line item, and you say, what is this? And how do we categorize it? You can ask questions, but they can be adjusted as you go on. You can change an account name later on. So that's not a big issue in the initial stages. The important thing is that you capture the dollar amount of the expense or the income, and you record it. You can always adjust things as you need to going forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people and a lot of business owners are just fearful, because a lot of us go into business because we know our product, our service, but then reality hits us, and we've got to do financial, and then everything just goes to a grinding halt. It's like, right? And so what's
really cool about this process too, I know we have to go on, but what's cool about the process is once you start seeing your financial statements, you begin to understand what's normal and what isn't normal. And so if you're not looking, let's say you have employees, right, that might not be doing what they should be doing, how are you going to find that out if you're not looking at your bank statements, right? Or financial statements. So if you see expenses that ordinarily, you don't ever see, and for some reason something shows up and jumps out, or a figure jumps out, you're like, that's not supposed to be there. So you get used to seeing what your normal stuff looks like, and then anything that's an outlying a liar, you're able to identify it a lot quicker.
Well, I think that's, once again, it's just another part of the onion that peels back, and you go, if you aren't financially literate about your own business, you're losing money, like all the time. The next point you were talking about was your balance sheet. Correct. So what are we talking about in your balance sheet?
So the balance sheet is or statement of condition. Essentially, it's the way I describe it is it's a snapshot of where your business is at any one point in time. So when you actually do all the right inputs, meaning you're able to get your financial your bank statements in, and you get your accounting done, or your bookkeeping done rather, you're able to look at the end of the month and determine exactly where your business is at that point in time. So balance sheet should be able to tell you how much what are your assets at that point in time, what are your liabilities, and so those and your equity, right? So what do you have in the business at that time, or what maybe where you are, even if you're negative equity. So there are instances that you need to know where you are in your business. So if someone's going to buy your business, they need to know how much they're going to pay, and that comes from how much you've put into the business in terms of your equity. What is it worth? So what the assets are, all the equipment, all the all the inventory, all of those things are lumped into your balance sheet. What's in your bank account, that's your balance sheet. And then you subtract your liabilities. Your liabilities could be, things that you owe, the leases and all those kinds of things that might have been a part of you operating your business. So the net result there, the net amount, is your equity. And so that's a very important data point to understand whether you're growing or you're not growing, or that, what do you need to do to really make that, to shift that number in the right direction.
Yeah. The interesting thing and one of the things I heard you say was that if you decide you want to sell your business, your balance sheet will let you know how much your business is worth, or get you in the ballpark of it. Because a lot of business owners, run their business from day to day. But as you get more and more savvy about it, you start to
Right.
think to yourself, what is my business really worth?
Right.
Because you might come in and want to buy your business. But if you aren't even just keeping up with this, you're really, once again, I think for business owners, you're losing money by not knowing, by
Yeah.
not reconciling all these things.
Well, for a real investor, and which is kind of what some of the things I do, is you assess, the net revenue, or you can also evaluate a business by its revenue. And so, whether it's 10 times the revenue for a specific business, depending on the type of business it is, if it's a real estate owned business or what have you. There are various models that you can use to evaluate what a business is, but a balance sheet is important. What do you have in terms of hard assets or intangible assets? Like a brand might be worth something. You might not have a ton of money in the bank, but your brand might be worth something. And it's important to evaluate what that is in the marketplace. And so there are various ways to do it, but that's a tool that you as a business owner should have access to, that you should be able to refer to if you're being asked and you're talking to. Now, if you want to also borrow money on your assets, that's another piece too.
Yeah.
Right? And leverage your inventory or your assets.
That's, Mark Cuban was on a couple of months ago, and he was talking about how different it is to have a really large business,
right,
and their ability to get asked or to get funding if they need it, as opposed to a small business. And I would think that part of it is because they know on their balance sheet what they're worth and what assets they have.
Absolutely. They know like that. It's instantaneous.
Yeah.
But we need to get a little bit more sophisticated, and it's just a matter of taking some time to say, if you do it enough times, you're going to be a lot more versed on what, and I look at a lot of things through the banker's lens. So you prepare business to borrow money or to acquire to acquire capital. You have to be prepared, and financials are really important.
That's incredible. So, but we're running out of time here, but let's get to the last one. Your statement of cash flows.
Cash flow is the lifeblood of a business. So, a lot of people are asset rich and cash poor, right? So, you have to.
Are you talking about my business? No.
A lot of people that have a lot of hard assets, but they don't have the kind of cash flow. Especially this year might have been very difficult for businesses because they weren't seeing the kind of foot traffic or activity, commercial activity to really have consistent cash flow. So our cash flow statement basically just looks at how cash moves through your business. And so it's important to, and businesses look at that, because if you're going to buy, let's say you want to buy something for your business, you want to acquire something that will help your business, a new piece of equipment or what have you, they're going to say, can this person afford this? And it's no different than in a household where you're looking to buy a house. They want to look at the ratio of, your debt to income, and to determine whether or not that purchase would put you in a difficult position. But if you're able to afford it without having hardship, there's a percentage that you need to be able to meet in order to live comfortably. So it's the same thing for business. Cash flow is a very important piece. It looks at the net cash flows and really not what you're taking in, but also against what's going out. And so that amount that's sort of in the middle really determines what your net cash flow is. That's very important, because that's how you're going to survive. That's how you're going to pay bills. That's how you're going to end up paying yourself. Those are some of the things that you want to,
Well, that's awesome. Robby, we could go on and on. We're running out of time, of course, on this, but I want to thank you for being on the show today. Once again, folks, this is Financial Thursdays with Robby Thomas. We will put Robby's contact information below us in the show notes, but thank you once again, Robby. We'll see you again next week for Financial Thursdays with Robby Thomas. Thanks a lot, brother.
Thanks for having me.
All righty. And so, folks, if you'd like to be with us once again, tomorrow actually is open mic or open line Friday for us. So be with us tomorrow, 8:30 in the morning for Black Success Magazine, the podcast. It's been Sherman Ray. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.